welcome to the Penelope Possum channel with me, your host, Penelope the Possum. Today we have videos. I know I was gonna play Amnesia: The Dark Descent today because we like to switch it up, but I don't feel too up to that. Hi. Today we have, of course, excuse me. Hello. We have Dr. Bob and I Am Our Scary Tales, classic spooky scary MVPs. And we've got a How to Beat, first time on this channel from How to Beat. We've not watched that channel, but I'm a personal fan of their content. Or his. I think it's just one guy and his editing team for the videos, obviously, but you know. You usually only just see the one person. Any other way? Oh gosh, no. Nobody cares about you, phone. Nobody loves you. So we'll start with our classic MVP videos of Dr. Bob and I Am Our Scary Tales and move on to the newer person, How to Beat. I don't remember if I've watched that video in particular, but I think I have.
Long, gnarled claws curl.
Oh, I should probably put on captions. You know. So that later I don't have to work as hard on the captions.
Around the leg of the wounded villager, dragging them through the snow like a rag doll. Darkness is falling. The air is freezing. And yet, the poor doomed soul being pulled towards a horrific fate by the ancient hunched figure is smiling blissfully. In the forest, every sound, no matter how small, puts you on edge. The snap of a twig underfoot, the rustle of leaves overhead, the wind passing between the trees.
Oh my gosh, that is a terrifying tree. Oh my gosh. Look at that tree. That is a scary tree.
Images of something else out there, watching, following, hunting you. The backpacker takes another cursory glance over his shoulder, the nagging thought that maybe he should turn back and retrace his steps to the main road, poking at his brain. It's not too late, the tiny voice tells him. You can make it back before dark. Someone's bound to come along who can help. He looks back to his map, squinting in the fleeting sunlight. There's a town nearby, a small place just off the beaten track. Cutting through the woods is the quickest way to get there, and he can't help but invite the possibility that he's only a few feet away from the furthest edge of the tree line. Just a little bit further can't hurt. And if he doesn't make it to the town by the time the sun fully sets, then he can turn back before it's too late. He should have turned back sooner.
Yeah, that's usually the case. You should usually turn back long before. You shouldn't be going out in the snow, first off. Don't go out in the snow. Bad things happen in the snow. It's the same reason you don't go out and go on. Yeah, go with your gut. Don't go out in the snow. And most importantly, don't get on crowded public transit. If you can help it. Yeah, I've had a lot of gut feelings in my life that turned out to be very accurate, so I'm more aware of, like, oh, I feel like something bad's about to happen. I should prepare for that. or get out of the area if I can. If I can't, just prepare. That looks better.
We'll return to our backpacker in just a moment. But first, I have a question directly for you. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in this world who's going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. And
oh gosh, BetterHelp again. I've seen so many ads for BetterHelp, and I get it. I don't think therapy's for everyone. It's a good tool, and a lot of people can benefit from it. But I don't think everybody needs or should get therapy. Like, there are people who need it, and there are people who should get it that don't, but there's a lot of people who go to therapy that don't need it. Take your medicine, it's good for you. I also feel like there is a certain amount of stigma with going to therapy. Even now, like, there isn't quite the amount of, oh, this person's definitely crazy, they're going to therapy, as there was, but there's still a certain amount of wondering what's wrong with somebody, I think, with going to therapy. And there's, of course, the possible bad things that can happen to your life through it. Like, you can be given bad advice by a therapist. They're not infallible, they're humans too.
And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, and this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in my description. It's betterhelp.com/Dr. Bob. Clicking that link helps support this channel.
Hello? Rar? Like, I get what Dr. Bob is doing, and I understand he has to keep his YouTube channel chugging. But I feel like this is sort of one of the less passable sponsors. I'll tell him you said hello later.
But it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with the therapist and see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing with therapy, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost, without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click.
Yeah, it is a useful tool. But he has to keep his channel going, and he has to keep food on his table, so it's a sponsorship. There's only so many sponsors that'll, accept certain kinds of YouTubers. With this, it's sort of violent content, so I think a therapy app wouldn't want to be associated with it. Because a lot of the subject matter and themes discussed in the SCP files are very triggering to a lot of people who have actual mental health issues. Or could be.
The link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/Dr. Bob. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. And now, back to our backpacker. The backpacker has been crossing Eastern Europe for the past
Seriously,
few months, traveling mostly on foot up until now. But walking through the freezing, rural areas of southern Russia was a quick way to get pneumonia, so he'd been opting to hitchhike until he made his way to a warmer part of the country. Most people were wary of picking him up and helping him get from one point to the next. The few that weren't, thankfully, spoke enough English to make communication possible. Thanks to his persistence and broken Russian, the backpacker had made it a decent distance. That is, until the most recent ride he'd hitched. He wasn't sure why, or even really what had happened. The driver who'd picked him up alongside the highway had seemed amicable enough, right up until he'd taken an unexpected detour. The backpacker had been keeping a close eye on his map and noticed the driver turn off at a different exit, pulling up alongside the forest on a long, empty stretch of highway.
Oh, that's bad.
Suddenly, the driver started aggressively yelling at him, urging him to leave the vehicle immediately. The backpacker had thought maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding and could barely keep up with the thick Russian being hurled at him. But then, the driver sped away, laughing loudly with his windows down. He yelled something back at the backpacker, but only one phrase stood out to him as the car receded into the distance. Baba Yaga. Now, lost in the woods, the sun rapidly disappearing, the backpacker tries desperately to keep hold of his bearings. That town is close,
My
only a few
cat
feet
is
away.
so
It has to be,
dumb.
he tells himself. Too close to justify turning back and trying to hail another passing car. He produces a pocket flashlight, its dim beam betraying just how small its remaining battery life is. The
Yeesh.
low light creates a few tiny glimmers in the snow, but they do little to dull the sense of worry that's rising higher and higher in the backpacker. A twig snaps, too far away for it to have been caused by his own footstep. The backpacker's heart jumps in his chest, and he turns to point his flashlight in the direction of the sound. His trembling, freezing fingers cause the light to shudder as it falls over a figure, standing in a clearing not far from him. They're hunched over, the kind of posture that typically comes with old age, dragging a person's upper body closer and closer to the ground. But he can't get a clear look at them. Their back is turned. The backpacker calls out, trying to recall some of his
he just
guidebook's
signed his
typical Russian
death
greetings to get the
certificate.
person's attention. The figure turns and speaks, saying something in a low, raspy voice. It sounds close to the Russian language, but a dialect that's far too old for a novice like the backpacker to recognize, let alone understand. He cautiously steps closer, the flashlight revealing the figure is an elderly woman. What's she doing out here in the forest, all alone at night? The backpacker tries to ask for directions,
Oh boy.
mentioning the name of the small town he saw nearby on the map, just the other side of the forest. And then, he sees her, the old woman, illuminated under the flickering light. Her skin is wrinkled, covered in pockmarks and deep lines, and her beady black eyes stare out at him. Saliva drips from her mouth, dribbling down her chin. Each finger is tipped with a rotting, overgrown yellow nail, protruding out of her bony fingers like talons. And the entire time he looks at her, the backpacker can think only one thing. One phrase that the driver who intentionally abandoned him here said, and why it had sounded so familiar. Baba Yaga, a creature from local folklore who dwelled in the forests and lured people to their deaths. One that typically took the form of a decrepit old woman. As the flashlight in his frozen hand blinks off, the backpacker turns heel and dashes through the trees. The rational part of his brain has been drowned out by the screaming, terrified panic. He throws off his heavy backpack, not daring to so much as peek over his shoulder for fear of seeing the face of the old woman in his peripheral vision, her claw-like hands reaching for him to tear him to shreds. Freed from his own cumbersome
Rip.
belongings, he rushes back through the forest, hoping he's going the same way he came. Something lightly brushes at his skin, causing him to scream and splutter, swiping his hands to try and swat it away. Light, thin cobwebs cling to him as the backpacker tries to clear them from his
Ew.
arms, face, and hair. Then, suddenly, he feels calm again. Better than calm. He feels good, as if he wasn't just fleeing for his life.
Oh, he's drugged out of his mind,
The dark
probably.
of the forest around him seems to brighten, and he lies down on the snow-covered ground
Oh,
with
yeah.
a relaxed sigh.
Some kind of
He
drugs.
doesn't even notice the old woman slowly shuffling towards him, or feel her teeth sinking into his flesh.
Icky.
A report of a missing hitchhiker was filed.
I mean, she just bit him, so yeah, I think that's not gonna end well.
After a man was caught bragging in a bar about ditching someone on the side of the road. Local authorities questioned the driver and asked him why he'd left an innocent backpacker to potentially die in the freezing forest. The driver simply chuckled and sneered in Russian. The Baba Yaga needs to eat. Humanoid SCPs can often be some of the most unsettling of all the anomalies that the Foundation can encounter. Sure, the sight of a creature like SCP-682 or SCP-096 is often terrifying in both their ferocity and the danger they present. But there's something about a being that looks almost human, but isn't, that can be particularly unnerving.
Creepy.
It's the sense of familiarity, the appearance of another person that causes us to subconsciously lower our guard and relax, only to be rewarded for being so trusting with a swift and brutal death. Such is the case with SCP-352, often referred to by the name it is given in Slavic folklore, Baba Yaga. Now, while you might be forgiven for believing that this name refers to the boogeyman, or synonymous with a hitman known for being the person to call if you wanted to kill said boogeyman, the reality is a little different. According to tales from Eastern Europe that date back centuries, the Baba Yaga is a creature that dwells deep in the heart of the forest.
If I remember correctly, the tales of the Baba Yaga, she lives in a house with chicken legs?
Bearing the appearance of an old woman, often described as appearing particularly grotesque. The Baba Yaga of legend differs from our notion of what we might call the boogeyman, existing solely to cause some form of supernatural torment to others. Instead, Baba Yaga is more often considered to be a more ambiguous figure, who will either hinder or provide aid to any who encounter her, should they seek her out in the forests. Some stories have even portrayed her as a sympathetic, maternal creature, responsible for the protection of wildlife. The point being, Baba Yaga is far more of a mysterious and multifaceted being than you may think, at least according to the stories. Much like the legends often suggest, SCP-352 also appears to be an old, emaciated woman. So old, in fact, that it's hard to determine her exact age. Little is known about her exact...
Are you okay? I'll be right back. I'm back. Everything's fine.
origins. However, what has been documented by the SCP Foundation
Yes, he's
is her speech
fine.
patterns. SCP-352
He was just making dinner and he
exclusively speaks
dropped
in
a little
dialect
bit of
reminiscent
beef on the
Old
floor.
Russian, the medieval precursor to the modern Russian language. Despite this, however, her thick accent and regional dialect
I know.
have made it nearly impossible to translate anything she says, even by the Foundation's most accomplished linguistic experts. What also doesn't help is just how little SCP-352 is willing to communicate. The few times she has, and from what sparse patterns of her speech are decipherable, SCP-352 offers little information, and instead only gives out threats and vows of one day having her revenge. Given how highly aggressive in nature she is, SCP-352 has never given the Foundation her name or revealed if she even has one. Next to no background information has been uncovered about her, either through attempting to converse with SCP-352 directly or by conducting research into her past. Now, a hostile and uncooperative elderly woman who doesn't like to communicate outside of threats might not seem all that unsettling, unless you've worked in retail, but it's true that...
Yeah.
From the outside, there doesn't appear to be anything all that anomalous or even unsettling about SCP-352. At first, at least. But the notion of
Laugh
her
your
being a
ass
harmless
off
old
if
lady
you
fades
must,
away in an
but
instant
you know
as
it's
soon as
true. Anyone who's worked in retail long enough knows. The old ladies can be absolutely demonic. Especially when they don't get their way. If you happen to be on the end of other end of not, like, if you're standing between them and what they want and they're already having a bad day, you're going to become the target of their anger, whether or not you've done anything wrong or not.
you get a glimpse of the monster within. Looks, after all, can be deceiving, and with SCP-352, deception seems to be the intention. Foundation researchers have discovered that this anomaly, whilst seeming like a frail old lady, actually possesses a level of strength far beyond that typical of an ordinary human at her apparent age. The same can also be said of her speed, given she is far faster than should be possible, especially given her apparently weaker stature. Yet, despite the assumptions that can be made from her external attributes, SCP-352 has been known to move masses in excess of 200 kilos with little difficulty, as well as moving at speeds of around 70 kilometers per hour.
That's
Those
impressive.
feats would be considered superhuman for an elite athlete, let alone a seemingly decrepit old woman. But then again, even the most accomplished and athletic person can't regenerate wounds. SCP-352, on the other hand, has been observed to have the ability of rapid cellular repair, healing from injuries that would be otherwise fatal to an ordinary person. This includes even extreme instances of bodily damage. While the reconstruction of her body can take anywhere between a few days to several weeks, and perhaps isn't as fast as some other entities, it does mean that little can be done to permanently destroy SCP-352. However, curiously, according to analysis by research teams, she still appears to be human, at least internally. She possesses muscles, bones, and internal organs that are all in a state of advanced aging, seemingly consistent with her external elderly appearance, in a way that her anomalous speed, strength, and bodily regeneration aren't. But these factors alone certainly seem like tenuous reasons to nickname SCP-352 after the infamous Baba Yaga of Eastern European folklore. There must be a more cogent explanation as to why some among the Foundation are scared to even go near her, believing her to really be the terrifying, decrepit, forest-dwelling figure of legend. And it's true, there's certainly more to this anomaly than some enhanced abilities and apparent immortality. For one, SCP-352 possesses the ability to grow thin strands of a hair-like substance from any part of her body, and can seemingly do so at will. This thin biological thread of sorts can grow to be several meters in length within the span of only an hour. What's more, SCP-352 can also directly control these threads. While she has been in containment at the Foundation, staff are not permitted to interact with SCP-352 directly. However,
Makes sense.
during observation by personnel, these threads that grow from her body have been seen crawling up walls and across the floor of her containment chamber. An individual one of these threads is thinner and weaker than the consistency and tensile strength of ordinary human hair, although they are also clear, making them almost invisible to the naked eye, unless enough of a mass of them is present. Further analysis of these
So it's like
strands...
polar bear hair. That's right, polar bears aren't white. Their hair is completely clear. There's just so darn much of it on the bear that it appears white.
reveals that they're coated in a layer of enzyme that is unique to SCP-352. Although present in all of her bodily tissue, this enzyme that SCP-352 produces is at its highest level of concentration within the anomaly's saliva and hair. Chemical analysis conducted by Foundation researchers has still failed to determine the exact makeup of the enzyme itself. However, the side effects of it coming into contact with humans are very well documented. Should SCP-352's enzyme reach human tissue, it will begin to rapidly attack the nervous system, with symptoms that manifest in a number of unsettling and degenerative ways. Almost immediately, a person who so much as gets some of this enzyme on their skin will start to experience vivid hallucinations and will often have the logical part of their brain shut down. diminishing their cognitive ability and preventing them from thinking or acting rationally. The subject's pain receptors are also suppressed,
Whoa.
meaning any serious injury will be unfelt and could potentially be life-threatening if left untreated. They will remain in this hallucinatory state for several days, depending on the level of exposure to the enzyme they've experienced. But the higher the dosage carries the greater likelihood of this manic state becoming permanent. One bite from SCP-352 is enough to achieve this result, driving its victims into a delirium where they can trust neither the things their eyes are seeing or the thoughts in their own brain. According to research conducted by the Foundation into SCP-352's habits, the creature sustains itself on a carnivorous diet, its main and preferred source of food being human flesh. And slowly, you're probably starting to put these different aspects of SCP-352 together into one gruesome picture. Like several strands spun together into a particularly unsettling web, almost exactly like the kind that SCP-352 weaves to catch its prey.
Welcome to my
Much
parlor,
like a spider,
said the spider to the
SCP-352
fly.
uses the threads produced by her body to create a web of hair, waiting for her prey to stumble into it. By exposing them to the enzyme in her saliva, she can cause them to rapidly become docile, aided particularly by the enzyme's hallucinogenic and pain-numbing properties. Once they've been bitten or otherwise suffered exposure to the enzyme, SCP-352 will trap her victim and begin to devour them. As has been observed by Foundation personnel both during testings and during SCP-352's discovery, she doesn't like her prey running away. As such, the anomalous old woman will often begin by completely disabling and incapacitating them. She then spends the following few days gradually eating her human prey until there is nothing left of them. Despite the horrific, stomach-churning images of SCP-352 eating someone being positively traumatizing to anyone unlucky enough to witness it, the victims themselves are often docile throughout the grisly process. Thanks to the enzyme in their systems, these unfortunate persons are often numb to the painful sensations and often experience an elevated rush of dopamine instead of the intense fear you might expect from a person being devoured by a decrepit old lady. Most of SCP-352's victims display a lack of awareness of their surroundings, with no knowledge of the outside world, as they suffer their own ingestion and eventual demise. Before the Foundation had a chance to observe all of this firsthand, reports of an enchanted forest were responsible for drawing their attention to a small township in southern Russia. According to the local stories circulating at the time, a witch had been responsible for the deaths of several people nearby. But it wasn't until word of this supposed witch's capture reached them that the Foundation decided to take a closer look and send in a team to investigate. A recovery team arrived in southern Russia, expecting to find the captured anomaly and some townspeople up in arms at the perpetrator of the recent deaths. Instead, they arrived to discover the area was deserted, not a living soul in sight. As they fanned out to explore the area, the first of the unsettling discoveries soon presented itself. A number of dead bodies in various states of decay. The smell was unbearable, but what was worse was there was no sign of the so-called witch. They soon happened across a clue as to where she might be, though. There was a trail of blood in the snow, leading from the town towards the forest at its outskirts. The shape and direction of the blood seemed to indicate that the bodies were dragged in the direction of the forest, the same place the locals had reported was enchanted. Venturing away from the small, frost-bitten town, the Foundation recovery team were surrounded on all sides by dense trees, dustings of ice over their crystallized leaves and branches. They searched the area, each footstep embedded in the snow with a crunch. Following the blood trail, one of the group, further away from the others, swore he felt something brush against his skin. He waved it away. It was just a cobweb. Or rather, it was just like a cobweb. Before long, the main group had lost contact with him and huddled together while sending out one of their number to retrieve their missing fellow agent. The Foundation operative traversed the forest until the sounds of snarling and crunching caught his attention. It was not the soft sound of snow underfoot. This was the brittle gnawing and snapping of bone against teeth. He peered out from behind a tree, and through a net of almost invisible threads hanging between them was an elderly figure crouched over the missing agent, devouring him alive. The operative muttered under his breath, the words exiting in a plume of warm fog in front of his face. Baba Yaga. A number of additional recovery teams were soon sent in by the Foundation to retrieve the anomaly. Thanks to multiple cases of exposure to the enzyme, heavy casualties were incurred before SCP-352 was eventually captured and brought back to the Foundation. Recovery teams also discovered a large quantity of the hair-like threads, enough to form a web that covered most of the forest. It quickly became apparent that this was responsible for the incidents of Foundation agents falling prey to SCP-352, with most writing off any contact with the threads as either the feeling of their own hair or spiderwebs against their skin. As of now, the anomaly designated as SCP-352 is kept in a sealed containment area at all times. Direct interaction with her is strictly prohibited unless carried out via remote means, such as through security cameras.
I just gotta wonder why she's so violent. Like, in general, she's human.
If human personnel are required to interact with SCP-352 under any extenuating circumstances, then full hazmat protocol is to be observed at all times. Anyone exhibiting erratic behavior or showing any indications of hallucinations must be placed in immediate quarantine and tested for enzyme contamination. If any personnel are bitten by SCP-352, they are to be abandoned. SCP-352 is fed once a week, a more efficient food source, employing the use of SCP-604 or SCP-1680, is still being reviewed and pending approval from the site director. In the meantime, the Baba Yaga still needs to eat, and there's only one thing that she's shown a preference for. Check out the Dr. Bob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-150, Body-Stealing Parasite, Ship of Theseus.
You see, guys? You see? Even SCP operators like Dr. Bob like cats. Cats are awesome.
This happened roughly around mid-November 2017. I was working the night shift at my local 7-Eleven, and my coworker was in the back throwing
cats. Yep. Also, can we look at this guy? Okay. First off, my guy's built like an SCP. Yeah. He got no face. Long leggy, skinny, tall, very tall. He's almost tall enough to touch that. Look, he's like maybe 3 feet from that awning, and those awnings are up high. I don't know. I don't think Slenderman would lower himself to temp work. Maybe Slenderman's third cousin, temporary job man? I can't think of a good name.
Trash in the dumpster. I was out front taking care of customers.
Whoa!
I was making sure.
She looks like a bug-eyed alien. Look at those cheekbones. My God. Yeah. Slender Man's third cousin, twice removed, skinny man. Skyro looks like an anime character.
All of our write-offs were done when I heard 2 customers fighting over a pack of cheese balls. It was a girl in her late 20s and a woman in her late 30s. They were seconds away from scratching each other's faces out. I ran to them to stop their fight. Ma'am, please don't be violent to one another. I saw the last bag of cheese balls. Oh, you freaking liar. They were again charging at each other, so I stood between them and said, "We have a lot more in the storeroom, ma'am. I'm about to restock the shelves. I will get one more packet for you." I got the woman her packet of cheese balls, and she left the store making faces at the girl. The girl looked rough, if I'm being honest. There were needle marks on her hands, and she constantly scratched herself with her unclean fingernails.
Icky.
Do you need help with anything else? Why, are you waiting for me to leave? Even though I still tried to be nice to her, as she was our customer. A few other people were shopping at the store and looking at us. Everyone judged the girl with their disgusted eyes. No, ma'am, my job is to help you in case you need it. Well, I don't need it! Fine, I'll be at the counter. I went back to the counter. The woman bought a bag of chips and a bottle of fruit juice and left while giving me her death stare. God, how am I still doing this job? I kept asking myself the rest of my shift. Once I got off work, handing the keys to the night shift worker, I warned her about this woman. I went home, had some dinner, fell asleep.
It's weird. IMR's art style's been changing a lot.
Right away.
Must be exploring.
Hello? Claire, you won't believe what just happened last night. The girl you talked about came back, man. What? Did she do anything stupid? She kept asking about you and said she'd be waiting for you. Crazy witch. I think it's time you inform the owner about her before going to work. Why? You don't think she'll try to hurt me, right? You never know, dude. People can be unpredictable. Thanks for the heads up, Mandy. I disconnected the call and sat on the bed with a worried face. I was wondering whether I should call the owner or not when a huge rock landed on
I think IMR Scary Tales is trying some new
my bedroom floor,
art styles.
shattering the glass of my window. What the hell? I jumped from the bed and rushed to see who did this. As I peeked from the window, another huge piece of rock came flying at me. Luckily, I had good reflexes, so I moved away. I waited for a few seconds, just to ensure no more attacks coming my way. And when I looked down, I saw that girl from the 7-Eleven last night. She was standing outside my apartment, chuckling like a freak. Wakey, wakey, sunshine. What the hell is wrong with you? Watch me make your life a living hell. I watched her walk away. I have never been so scared in my life. I am living alone in this new city, and God knows what that deranged lady is capable of. I wasn't going to take any more risks. I would have called the cops, but I decided to talk to the owner first. I called Mr. Gonzalez and told him everything. I even sent him snaps of my broken window and those big pieces of rocks. He told me not to be scared of the girl and just come to the store for the shift. He said he would be there today. I felt a little relieved, thinking if the girl decided to follow me to work now, I would at least have someone to watch my back. I got ready and finally went to work. Mr. Gonzalez was handling the counter today. We exchanged greetings, and I went to stack the shelves with new, fresh supplies. 3 hours went by, and when the girl still didn't show up, I was positive she wouldn't be seen anymore. But, man, I was wrong. I turned my head
Scratched the
to see the girl
lens on my
standing
glasses.
inside the store with an evil smile on her face. We made eye contact, and a shiver ran down my spine. I looked at my boss, and he understood the assignment. Hey, you. Yes? Help me find the chips, please. Sure, this way. We started walking down the aisle. I was leading the way. She was following me. I could hear her chuckling and whispering obscenities at me, but she was speaking in a low volume, so only I could hear it. Tonight, when you'll sleep in your bed, I'll sneak into your room and I will cut your chest open. I will take out your heart because you don't deserve it. Okay, that's it. I turned around and pushed her out of my way and went straight to my boss. I told him everything and he yelled at the woman. How dare you touch me, freak?
Ma'am, enough! We need you to leave now!
Her eyes just zoomed from my face to my boss's. Her bony cheeks started to get red in anger. While breathing like a monster, she said, Who are you to order me?
I own this store, and I'm not going to order you twice.
You son of a... You want money, witch? Is that what this is all about, huh? You think I don't have money? I'll show you, you wait! Saying this, she took out a bunch of cards and started throwing them at Mr. Gonzalez like they were dollars. This girl was utterly delusional. I don't know what drug she took to become this way. Slowly, the situation escalated, and she started throwing whatever she could find at my boss. Mr. Gonzalez lost his calm at one point and started throwing back things at the girl, too.
Oh,
I'll
jeez.
kill you! Fear me, witch, fear me! She was screaming and having this total meltdown when Mr. Gonzalez came at her and grabbing her hand, he pushed her out of the store. The girl fell on the sidewalk, losing her balance, but she immediately got humbled. She sat there crying for a while and then left. I never saw her again, but
Good.
I hope she's doing better.
You can hope she's doing better all you want, but the sad fact of the matter is these kinds of people don't want to get better. They just want to mess up their lives and ruin everything for everybody else. I deal with one lady who's clearly been affected by meth for a very long time at my job. And she comes in and makes a scene every single day. And she comes specifically looking for me every time. If that's not enough, there's other people. Like this one crazy lady who always comes in going off about how she's God's chosen woman or something. She's easy enough to deal with. All I have to do is tell her I'm busy. I'll be right back. Oh yeah, I deal with delusional people all the time. The funny thing is, I was working on Friday the 13th recently, and I did not see a single one of those people all day.
The story you just saw is loosely based on this real video. The woman in the video is a customer visiting this 7-Eleven store in Hawaii. But she, for some reason, feels bad about the service. She started trashing the place and throwing stuff at the cashier. But soon,
Crazy
her madness
lady.
takes a turn for the worse. Losing patience, the 7-Eleven worker acts out by slapping the woman and then pushing her out of the store. Let us know in the comments if you have ever encountered anything weird in your local
7-Eleven. I don't go to 7-Eleven very often. I don't visit most gas stations very often for reasons like that. So people are so paranoid about Friday the 13th that they will refuse to go out. Also, I realized recently I got a new follower on Twitch. The man, yeah.
I was stacking the sandwiches in the freezer when I heard the shop bell ring. Here comes another customer. I went back to the counter and saw this old woman with a tired face standing in the store. She was looking for something. Ma'am, do you need any help? I would like a strawberry shake. The drinks are in the next aisle. Do you want me to get it for you? Oh no, dear. You've been so sweet. I'll check it myself. With her trembling,
dear.
slow steps, she headed for the second aisle.
Oh goodness.
My eyes went back to the
Okay,
entrance.
they look more normal in this video. I think there are multiple animators on IMR Scary Tales.
Hearing the second ding. And now there was a man. A man.
Whoa. Alright, let's take in this dude real quick. First off, Why is his entire skin yellow? The inside of his ears are way too pink. He looks like a rat. His eyeballs are bugging out. There have to be different artists and animators for each. He kind of looks like a fucked up Teletubby. Like Lala. But like drugged out. But that's the point. The bad guy in each video is supposed to look exceptionally weird. But the fact that each animation and art style is very different in each story leads me to think that there are multiple animators and artists for each story. You were thinking sick baboon? Yeah, that
He
too.
looked like he hadn't eaten in days. His eyes were wide and he had a creepy stare.
His
But
face looks like a
obviously, I
cracked
didn't want to be
porcelain
rude to a
man.
customer, so I asked, "Can I help you?"
I'm here for a sandwich. I have money.
I gestured toward the back of the store. He hurried like a hungry mouse. I watched him tear off the sandwich wrapper and start gobbling at it. I didn't disturb him, as I expected him to pay on his way out.
Jeez.
In between his bites, he was making eye contact with me. His eyes never blinked whenever we looked at each other. God, he's so creepy.
Hello, dear. I had one shake standing here near the aisle. Hope it won't be a problem.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I would like to buy one more. Here.
The old woman placed the strawberry shake on the counter and asked,
How much is it for 2 of these?
while taking the money from her, I glanced back at the man, and he was almost done with his sandwich. He, too, was walking towards the counter now. Thank God he's leaving. I felt relieved. I was handing the change to the old woman when the man stopped in front of the counter and said,
One sandwich. Sorry I didn't pay first. I was really hungry.
"It's fine." I started billing him, and the old woman was walking towards the exit. When she was almost out the door, she turned back and asked,
Can I use your washroom?
"Definitely. It's on the end to your right." Seeing the woman walk back into the store, the man's behavior changed. He got
Oh boy.
self-conscious and nervous all of a sudden. "Here's your change. Visit us again." He didn't take the change from my hand. Instead, he leaned closer and started doing small talk.
So, what time does the store close?
"What?
Just asking.
Maybe you should get going. I have tons of work." I started typing in the system, pretending to be busy. I thought if I just ignored him, he would go away. But he just kept standing there. "Excuse me, is there anything else?"
Yes. Would you like to go for a smoke with me?
"No, I don't smoke, and I'm working, dude. What the hell is your problem?" He got tense, but still tried convincing me to spend more time with him.
No need to get angry. Just take a break. I can see you look tired.
"Look, if you don't leave right now, I'll have to call the manager. Also, there are CCTV cameras all over the store."
Please don't be so hyper. Just try to understand what I'm saying.
I don't want to hear any of this." Our argument was getting worse when I heard a voice.
Is he bothering you, dear?
I looked behind the man, and it was the old woman.
Why do I feel like this old woman's keeping this old man hostage and that's why he's trying so hard?
I completely forgot her as she went to use the bathroom. But seeing her in the store, I got back my courage. I grabbed my phone and yelled, "I'm calling 911. You need to leave now."
Leave her alone. Go back to the streets, you punk.
I was so proud of the old woman for standing up for me.
Or
She warned
she's
the
with
man.
him.
I'm staying right here until you go, weirdo. You heard me.
The man looked back at me with a helpless, sad expression, like he was so disappointed with life, and then he started walking towards the entrance. I was worried, as the old woman was also on her way out. As the man walked closer, I kept praying to God that he didn't do anything reckless. He was inches away from walking past the woman when he suddenly turned back and jumped on her.
Get off of me! Get off of me, you scum!
The man pinned the poor woman down on the floor and they began struggling. The old woman was trying her best to free
Clearly not
herself
with
from his
him.
grasp, but she was not strong enough to stop him.
Let me go! Now!
Hello? 911? You need to send someone here. There's a man who has gotten into the store and attacked a customer. I'm calling from the 7-Eleven on the highway. The operator kept consoling me, saying help is on the way. I was thinking to go help the old woman when something shocking happened. The man grabbed something from the old woman's pocket and
A
flung
knife.
it on the floor.
Oh god.
She's not what she seems. I saw the knife when she was going for the bathroom.
My world collapsed under my feet as I saw that cute old woman's face change into a hideous witch.
What are you gonna do now? You ruined all my plans! I
Ooh,
will
Steve.
kill you!
A few seconds ago, the woman who felt so helpless and fragile to me was now standing in the store, breathing like a raging
As I said,
bull.
clearly not with
Her
him.
eyes were bloodshot. She tried to attack the man, but this time, I heard cop cars outside the store.
Police! Put your hands over your head!
The woman was arrested, and the cops identified her as the Granny Killer. For the last few weeks, she's been said to target empty convenience stores. She would come in when there was no one in the store except the night worker, and she would stab them to death. After making sure no one in the store could stop her, she would rob the store and leave for her next killing. I thanked and also apologized to the man. We often forget real evil comes with many masks.
So none of that was what I was expecting. Oh, that's a face.
Stormy night, huh?
Oh, sorry.
Good
I
lord.
didn't see there.
But I saw
Completely normal looking human versus Miranda Sings or whatever her face is. You know the one. The one who recently got flamed on social media for making a really tone deaf, not literally, song. Yeah, it does like bad claymation. But hold on. I'll I'll pull up an image. This girl. Yeah? Look at that. Look at this. She recently got in some pretty hot water because she was doing and saying inappropriate things to minors. I'm not gonna elaborate any further than that on that subject. But she has allegedly been saying things that are not appropriate to people who are underaged. And she made a very tone deaf apology song video. And I mean tone deaf in a figurative sense. Tone deaf in the fact that she clearly saw these allegations as a joke. Yes, that is a very big nose. I think her actual name's Colleen something. But we're not here about her. We're here about the fact that this girl in this video looks like her, and that's very, very coincidental.
Saw you, coming at this store in the storm like a cat who hates water.
You're funny. Hey, babe.
Where are you, Mike?
I'm the 7-Eleven near the high road.
What are you doing there?
My car broke down and heavy rain started. Let me see if I can call a mechanic from the store.
Oh God, won't that take a while?
I'm trying to be there as soon as possible, babe. Try to understand, okay?
I don't know what to say to you. Everyone's here, Mike.
I know. I'll be there soon. I've got to go now. Calling you once I get back on the road.
Fine.
Wow,
Hey,
his girlfriend sounds like a bee.
Is there a mechanic nearby? My network isn't working properly.
Was that your girlfriend?
Yeah.
How long have you guys been dating?
6 months?
Is she beautiful?
Of course. Very pretty.
Prettier than me?
What?
Prettier than you? Probably.
I was kidding. Look at your face.
Hey, man. Dude, I'm coming to get you, okay? Oh, that'll be so much help, man. I didn't think I'd find any mechanic in this weather. Yeah, I guess that. Can you share your location? Sure, I'll try. Sent. Got it. So you alone there? How fast can you get here? Why? And why are you whispering all of a sudden? Nothing. It's just the woman working here. She's a little weird. Is she hot? Shut up. Oh, come on, tell me. This is quite an interesting driving conversation. She's fine. Looks a little older to me underneath all that makeup. What is she doing now? Staring outside the window? What is she wearing? The obvious 7-Eleven t-shirt. Is that tight for her? Stop being gross, Trevor. You just got your girlfriend back. Who said I wanted her to be my girlfriend? I'm driving all this way. There's nothing wrong to have a little snack before driving back.
Ew.
Ah, crap. What? What happened? I think she saw me secretly looking at her. Now she'll think I'm a creep. Go talk to her. Why waste time like this? Just shut up, Trevor. Get here faster.
Do you need any help?
Jesus.
If you're looking for something to eat, I can get it for you.
Her eyes
Can
are
you
so
see
far
me now?
apart. She looks like a
You didn't answer my
horse.
question.
Look, I don't need any help. I'm just waiting here for my friend.
Back up.
But I really want to help you. Maybe
Back
we
up.
have tools in the basement that can fix your car. Why don't we go down there and check?
I said I don't
Absolutely
need your
not.
help, so back off.
I think your friend is here.
Cheese and
Mike?
rice.
Mike?
Holy cow.
Stormy night, huh?
Oh, sorry. You must be the... Okay, enough. We need to go. Bro, I was trying to talk to her. You really don't want to, Trevor. Trust me.
God.
Drive, dude. Please, just drive. Okay, okay. No need to go all psycho, man.
She looks like a bug or a horse or something.
Stormy night, huh?
Ah! Cheese and crackers. Oh my gosh. Absolutely freaking not, my guy. Holy cannolis. Blech. Ugh. That's terrifying. I couldn't imagine
fate of the world against the mind-controlling master of hell, what would you do? This demon has been buried by the church for centuries, and now he's ready to return for round 2. He knows all your dirty little secrets, and I'm here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Asmodeus, the king of demons, in The Pope's Exorcist.
I'm hoping that the how to beat team spaced out enough of the footage from the film to not get me copyright stricken.
This extreme home makeover is about to turn into this family's worst nightmare. Late one night in summer 1987, the Vatican's version of the Doomslayer, Father Gabriel Amorath, rides his scooter to a farmhouse where a young man is said to be possessed by a demon. He takes his briefcase and walks past a crowd of concerned onlookers and a farmer with a huge pig into the family home. The local priest introduces him to the man's family, explaining that they've tried to get help from several doctors, but so far nothing has worked. Gabriel tells them to recite the Lord's Prayer, and the family leaves the house as he prepares to get to work. In the next room, the young man lies on the bed screaming and contorting his body in unnatural ways. Gabriel crosses himself and opens his briefcase, and the man tells him that he is Satan himself. The father expresses doubt, getting a serious rise out of the man before holding up a St. Benedict medal inscribed with the Latin phrase, "Begone Satan," to his head. The man stares at the medal, and Gabriel asks the demon why it possessed this innocent boy instead of someone more powerful. The demon responds that it can possess anyone it wants, and Gabriel has the farmer bring the pig into the room, challenging the demon to prove its power by possessing the animal. The man screams in pain before falling to the bed, and the farmer blows the pig's brains out with a shotgun. Gabriel embraces the man and tells him that the demon is finally gone. 1 month later,
That's
an American
interesting.
family arrives at an abbey in Spain that they've inherited and started renovating after the
Okay. Suspicious, suspicious, suspicious. Why did this American family inherit an abbey in Spain? Why is it so horribly round down?
untimely death of their father. They head inside, and the mother, Julia, introduces herself to the contractors and local priest, Father Thomas Esquibel. He thanks them for restoring the abbey and offers his help if there's anything that they need. Upstairs, the family's oldest kid, Amy, starts brushing her teeth when she hears a knock from somewhere out of sight. She looks around the room but sees nothing, never noticing a demonic face appearing in the doorway right behind her. Sorry for the interruption, but I wanted to break in and give everyone a heads up about a great
Gonna skip right through that.
tunnels beneath the building. But that was his worst mistake. He hears a demonic whispering that lures him to a hole in the wall and peers through to see a strange seal in the stone with mysterious cracks starting to appear. Upstairs, the mom asks Amy to keep an eye on her brother, saying that she needs her help looking after him while they fix up the abbey. Aggravated at having to play babysitter, she gives her mom the finger and lays back down to listen to her music. Back in Rome, Gabriel and
I
his
suppose
friend
that's a
Bishop
typical
Lumumba arrive
teenager
at the
move,
Vatican,
but
where
I
he's
wouldn't
been
know.
summoned to attend a formal hearing about his exorcism practices. They grill him on his recent stunt at the farmhouse, but he argues that he never performed an exorcism there, instead saying that the boy was temporarily psychotic, and he simply put on a show to snap him out of it. Gabriel asks them what the hearing is really about, and they explain that they want him to retire from his position as the chief exorcist. He says that he answers only to the Pope, and tells them that if they have a problem, to take it up with his boss before walking out of the room. Okay, these guys think that they can push him around, but they just found out the hard way that Father Gabriel is a loose cannon priest who doesn't play by the rules. That whole first scene was actually a reference to a story from the Bible where Jesus meets a man who's been possessed by an army of demons and frees him by casting the evil spirits into a nearby herd of pigs, which proceed to run straight off a cliff to drown in the sea. In case you missed it, Gabriel just pointed out that the guy back at the farmhouse was never actually possessed in the first place. He was just a regular old, mentally disturbed dude who was fighting his own demons in a more metaphorical sense. If that's the case, was it really necessary to kill the pig like that? I mean, it says right in the 10 Commandments that you shall not kill, so I don't know if the big man upstairs is going to approve of this one. I hope he was next up on the list to become bacon, because if not, that's just cruel. From a purely practical sense, a good quality pig like that can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. I would have told the guy that his demons were in the pig, and we took it outside and shot it, but really just sold him off to live at another farm, with our psychotic friend being none the wiser. He thinks that he's cured. Pumbaa gets to keep on rolling in the mud and doing whatever the hell else pigs do, and the family even makes
Pigs
a couple
do, not much. Roll in mud, generally be disgusting and smelly. I think that's the full gambit of pig activities.
bucks out of the whole thing. I might even charge people to come see the demonically possessed pig, like a carnival sideshow. Now, circling back to our family of house flippers, it seems like their fixer-upper came with something sinister hidden in the basement. An abandoned monastery is no place to be bringing your emotionally disturbed kids, especially while it's in the middle of massive restorations. Even if they don't accidentally release ancient evil, the constant construction will make the place very dangerous for an unattended preteen. Why do they even need to be staying there? I don't know what Julia does for a job, but unless she's a construction foreman, she's not going to be very much help to the contractors trying to work on the place. She might be thinking that a trip to Spain will help get her kids their mind off of their father's tragic death. But if that's what she was going for, then I would have suggested staying at a hotel in the city, not a creepy old abbey in the middle of nowhere that practically screams free demonic possession.
I mean, if that's what her thought process really was, shouldn't she take them to see a therapist or, I don't know, literally anything but drag them to an abbey that literally just looking at reeks of death? Like, it's so dark and enclosed and worn out and torn down.
In every room. I would have stayed back in the States and let the kids have a normal summer while
Yeah.
I checked in with the construction workers over the phone. Little Henry doesn't make it 2 hours before he goes off wandering around and finds a demon pit. Smart Money says this kid just got possessed on day 1 of the trip, and the family's vacation from hell is about to begin. Back at
Yeah.
the Abbey, Julia is looking over some paperwork when she hears a strange noise from somewhere in the darkness. Going to investigate, she notices that the place is freezing cold but sees nobody there. She goes to Henry's room and finds him asleep in bed with loud music blasting in his headphones, and takes them
Don't fall asleep with loud music blasting in your headphones. It will destroy your hearing. I know. I've done this. My hearing's shot now.
off before giving him a kiss on the forehead and going back to her room. As she leaves, the boy's eyes shoot open, indicating that something about him isn't quite right. Down in the basement, a couple of construction workers notice the mysterious hole in the wall. One of them lights a flare, not noticing that gas is leaking through, and suddenly the whole place ignites in flames. Outside, the manager says that they can't continue working while there's a gas leak and immediately pulls his team off of the job. Upstairs in the bedroom, Henry begins shaking uncontrollably, and Amy screams for their mom. Julia runs to help him, but the boy suddenly sits up in bed, telling them that they're all going to die before scratching at his face with his fingernails. They take Henry to the hospital, but after running several tests, the doctor confirms that his vitals and his brain functions are all normal. They ask if he's experienced any trauma recently, and Julia explains that he watched his father die in a car crash after being impaled through the head by a tree branch. Thinking that that would be enough to mess any kid up, the doctors suggest that he could be experiencing temporary psychosis and recommend that Julia reach out to a psychiatrist, giving her a box of sedatives in case he tries to hurt himself again. Back at the Abbey, Julia tries to contact a specialist while Amy takes care of her brother. She goes to the freezer to get some ice cubes when suddenly the power goes out and Henry sits up in bed.
I think in this case, especially the youngest kid having watched his father die in front of his eyes, getting impaled in the head with a freaking branch, would warrant some kind of therapy. That's not something you just bounce back from. Horror movie characters are so dumb.
Amy heads to the basement to flip the breaker switch, while Julia tries to comfort
I
her.
mean, they gave him sedatives. But I feel like this kid should have been on some, antidepressants, antipsychotics, something before this.
Her son. Out of nowhere, he grabs his mom's chest and starts to taunt her in a demonic voice, growling at them and demanding that they bring him the priest. They call Father Tomas, but as soon as he enters the room, the demon flings him back out.
Ew.
Apparently, this is not the priest he's looking for. Meanwhile, Gabriel goes to visit the Pope, and he tells them that there's a special case that needs his attention. He explains to him what's been going on in Spain, and warns him that the boy's possession is growing extremely fast. The Pope senses a great evil coming from the Abbey, and sends Gabriel to get to the bottom of things before it's too late. Gabriel rides his scooter all the way to Spain, and shows up at the house.
So since he was talking to the Pope, he must have been in Rome, which is in Italy. Now, I'm not great at geography, but I think Spain is a couple miles, kilometers. Like, it's not close, but it's not far. Yeah, he probably had to stop and take a whiz a few times.
Looking drippier than a leaky faucet. He wanders into the overgrown garden to have a look around, and Father Tomas comes out to greet him. He recognizes Gabriel from his writing and brings him inside to meet the family. Gabriel introduces himself, and Julia questions why the church is even interested in their case. He points out that the doctors haven't given them any answers, and asks her to let him give his opinion before she decides what to do next. Amy says that it's worth a shot, and the mom finally agrees to let him see Harry, leading him upstairs to his room. Gabriel enters the room alone, asking Henry if he's awake, but getting no response. He sets down his briefcase and takes out his medal before pulling up a chair and starting to pray. Suddenly, the boy's eyes open, looking extremely possessed. He shouts at Gabriel that his prayers are worthless, and the father holds the medal up to him, causing his true demon eyes to appear. Gabriel asks the demon why he's taken the boy, and reveals that his true goal is to possess the father himself. He tells the demon that he has no power over God, but the creature makes a crucifix fall off the wall, taunting Gabriel and saying that he doesn't know who he's dealing with. Gabriel challenges him to speak his name, but the demon won't fall for it, and reveals that he knows more about the father's history than he thinks, including that he played dead during World War II to avoid being killed by a German platoon. Suddenly, the boy starts to choke as his throat swells up, and he spits out a dead cardinal onto the bed. Realizing that this one won't be easy, Gabriel crosses himself and leaves the room, with the demon taunting him as he goes. Okay, Gabriel might be in over his head on this.
You think? I think this guy might be in way over his head. This kid just coughed up a cardinal. A bird. A whole bird. That's not just something that happens normally.
This one. But when you're the Pope's personal demon slayer, and your usual methods aren't working, who do you call for backup? The Ghostbusters? First of all, it's incredibly unsafe to be staying in the place now that they know it has a massive gas leak in the basement. One spark or carelessly smoked cigarette and boom, the whole family is toast. I'd be packing my bags and staying at a hotel until we could have a professional come clear the place out.
Yeah.
Now, as soon as Henry started to scratch off his own face, I would have skipped to the doctor's office and going straight to breaking out the crucifix. The kids never had these kind of episodes before, but he's so emotionally disturbed and they just moved into an abandoned monastery, so to me, it's already obvious that the demons got him. The one useful thing that they got from their hospital trip was a box of sedatives to knock him out if he starts acting crazy again. When he started speaking in a demonic voice, I would have hit him with a dose of the sleepy juice and tied him up to the bed right away, and the priest could get a look at him without being thrown across the hallway. While we're waiting for Father Gabriel to show up, I would have taken the other priest and had a good look around the property to see what I could find out. Having the priest to back me up should help to protect me from becoming possessed myself, and if we found anything suspicious, his knowledge of these types of things would be very helpful. Plus, he'd make a great meat shield if the situation took a turn.
Oh, that's mean.
The most likely place for evil spirits to be lurking is obviously the creepy tunnels under the Abbey, so that would have been the first place I went to check out. I wouldn't have had to look far before we found a hole in the wall with the hidden passageway behind it, and just like that, we'd have found the source of our problem. The priest could give me some more insight into what exactly I was looking at, and said some prayers and threw some holy water at it. Then, when Gabriel eventually got there, we could let him know that there's a hidden room in the basement where the demons might be coming from, and he could go check it out if he thought that it was important to the case. Gabriel may be a pro, but it looks like he's got his work cut out for him with this one, and we'll have to see if he can rescue Henry before it's too late. Out in the hallway, Gabriel tells Tomas that the boy said things that he couldn't know unless he was truly possessed. He says that he needs to speak to Julia and find out why the demon chose her son. Gabriel explains to the mom that her son is possessed by a very powerful demon, telling her that trying to take him out of the Abbey could be fatal, and the only way to get him back now is through faith. He asks her if anything happened to the boy, and Julia tells him about the car crash. Gabriel points out that severe trauma can be a gateway for evil spirits, but if she loves her son and prays for him, then there's still a chance to save his life. Upstairs, Amy is alone listening to her music when she hears several strange knocks on the wall. She goes to check on her brother, but he growls at her and says that he's in hell, sending her running back to her room in fear. She slams the bedroom door shut when suddenly the phone rings, answering it only to hear her dead dad's voice on the other end telling her that they're all going to die. Amy freaks out and runs to tell her mom and Gabriel what just happened. They ask the father what they should do, and he tells them to get some rest while he goes back to work. Gabriel goes back to the boys' room and prays outside the door, while Tomas asks him about his plan. He says they need to figure out the demon's name in order to exorcise it, and they'll do this by torturing it with constant prayer. Gabriel tells Tomas that he must confess his sins, otherwise the demon will use them against him. But Thomas admits that he hasn't been to confession in 8 months. Not having the time to listen to 8 months worth of confessions, Gabriel absolves him of his sins and tells him that he's forgiven. He asks Tomas what exorcism rites he knows, but he replies that he doesn't know any since he never had to perform one. Instead, Gabriel tells him to recite the Hail Mary and not to engage.
Yeah. It seems pretty interesting, Pope's Exorcist. The effects are pretty alright looking from what I've seen. What I like about this guy is the way he explains what happens in the movies so nonchalantly. Like, just completely flippant about the whole
With the demon no matter what happens. With their plan laid
and
out, the
upbeat,
men
yeah.
get ready for the next round of battle. As soon as they enter the room, the demon starts to taunt them relentlessly. Ignoring him, Gabriel begins the exorcism as the child flails around in pain. Suddenly, the lights go out, and Gabriel is confronted by the memory of a young woman named Rosaria, who took her own life after he determined that she wasn't possessed, and turned her over to the care of medical professionals. He reminds himself that she's not really there, the woman falling to the bed and morphing back into the boy, but the experience leaves him shaken. Turning its attention to Tomas, the demon shames him for pursuing a relationship with a young woman named Adela, which goes against his moral duties as a priest, causing him to lose his cool and start
Oh,
choking the
Jesus.
kid out like Homer Simpson. Gabriel pulls him off, and they go back out to the hallway to regroup, with the demon taunting him for taking the bait as he leaves. Okay, it looks like Henry
Is it just
isn't the
me,
only
or
one
did the
fi-
kid lose his eyebrows? Like, this kid had eyebrows before, right? He doesn't look like he has eyebrows now.
fighting his demons. I guess Tomas and Gabriel thought that they could keep their extracurricular activities a secret, but this fiend exposed both of them like it was reading straight from their search history. With time being so crucial, they can't afford to be losing rounds here. Every time they need to regroup, the demon will just become more confident and powerful. So they would have been better off not going in there until they were sure they were ready to finish things. Here's what I would have done differently. For starters, since Gabriel knows that the demon will use their sins against them, they should have both made a real confession before going in. Now, they've got no time to waste, so I wouldn't be sitting there to listen to 8 months worth of sins from Tomas either, but it would have been smart to at least cover the big ones instead of just glossing over it like they did. Both of these guys shouldn't have to think very hard about the number one thing that's eating away at their conscience, and they should have quickly confessed these deep dark secrets to each other so that the demon wouldn't have been able to turn the tables so easily. I might even call up the nearest prison and have them bring me their most hardened criminal, properly restrained with a full police escort, of course. With a real bad guy in the room, the massive amount of sins he's probably committed might overwhelm the demon and distract him from mine, providing us with a nice spiritual shield to concentrate all of the bad vibes in his direction. Who knows?
You know, that's actually not a bad idea. Like, think about it. If the demon, like, gets its jollies off of being like, oh, you did so and so and so and so, that was bad, and I'm not gonna taunt you for it. Why not give him someone who really did bad? Like, really bad. Like, find the worst person. Absolute scum of the earth. Someone so bad they're on death row or something, like a death row inmate. Chained up, properly escorted. Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer. Heck, see if you can find someone worse than Dahmer. Like, mix Dahmer with every other psycho. Levels of bad here. Go for broke. See who you can find. Depending on when this takes place, there could be some pretty prolific freakazoids out there. I think he said this was in the 80s? Yes? So, who was around in the 80s that was just really, just a piece of work? Just the worst. Who was around in the 80s that was just the worst? The worst.
Maybe the demon would be so drawn to the other evil spirit that it would give its plan up and decide to jump into the prisoner instead. Then it would be the police's problem to deal with, and I could head home for a nice bowl of spaghetti.
Okay, so 70s to 80s. So, between those two time periods, who do we have to work with real bad guy wise? Like, actual scum of the earth. You wouldn't pee on them if they were on fire category of terrible person.
With their consciences clear, the next thing I would have done is chosen a more strategic battleground. The Catholic Church specifically says never to perform an exorcism in the afflicted person's home if you can help.
Charles Manson? See if they can't get Charles Manson up in shackles up there. Worst comes to worst, they can just have the criminal escorted out if nothing happens, right? But best case scenario, this criminal is a great distraction or possession target. Or perhaps the demon will become very interested with the sins that this person's committed and start getting like more like talkative with them, and that's where they slip up.
Suggesting that you take them to a chapel where God's influence is the strongest. For him being such an expert, this is kind of a big oversight by Gabriel here. Every monastery has a chapel somewhere on the premises where the monks go to pray. So I would have hit Henry with some of the sedative and then moved him down there before we got started. It's always good to have home field advantage, especially
I mean,
when
it
you're
wouldn't be
fighting off
great that
demonic
they
possession.
jumped
Now,
into the
since we're
body of a
trying-
mass murderer or whatever, but at least then they can reliably restrain the person because they're already restrained.
to get through to the boy behind the
And you
demon,
don't feel as bad about, you know, slapping them around or hurting
I would
them
have taken
because they're a bad guy.
steps to remind him of who he really is, to help his spirit start to fight back. Since he seems to be very attached to his music, I would have put his headphones on him with his favorite songs playing, which would hopefully confuse the demon and start to bring the real Henry back to the surface. I would have also made sure that his mom and his sister
Oh,
were
yeah.
around, since seeing them and hearing them calling to him should help him push the evil spirit
Just
out.
get
I would
it
put
into the
TV
bad
in
guy
there
and just
put on his favorite show, bring some pizza and chicken.
You know, just demon taken care of, bad guy taken care of. Everyone's better off for it. That's exactly why you'd want a death row inmate for that. Like someone who's already got nothing to lose and is bad enough to be. Yeah. And wouldn't it be still old Sparky in this time? Like they didn't have the injection yet.
Chicken nuggets, and even hook him up with a Nintendo and some games, pulling out all the stops to try and snap him out of it. If we really got desperate, there's one last thing that I would have tried. Gabriel says that the most critical part of an exorcism is figuring out the demon's name. Since the spirit isn't willing to hand over his driver's license for identification, I would have just gotten out the old demonic encyclopedia and started spitting. One of the most famous books on demonology, The Lesser Key of Solomon, lists a total of 72 demons by name. The average person can read 183 words per minute out loud, so I could run through the whole list of the top evil spirits in less time than it takes to heat up a pot of rigatoni. I'd just start reading off names and keeping an eye on him, and watching for a
Why
break in
are
his
we
confidence
so
when I hit the
focused
right
on
one.
pasta?
Just like that, we've got our name, and I'd be sending this demon packing without hardly breaking a sweat. Gabriel and Tomas need to get their act together fast, and we'll have to see if they can get to the bottom of things before the hellspawn completely takes over. Thomas sits down on the steps and starts to cry, and Gabriel comes to confront him. He explains that Adela was the love of his life and wanted him to leave the priesthood so they could be together, but he turned her down before things went too far. Gabriel forgives him for his sins, and Thomas composes himself. He asks Gabriel about Rosaria, and the father explains that she was a girl he should have helped, and that the demon is using her memory to mess with his head. He hands Thomas a Latin prayer book and tells him to learn a particular section for their next fight. Suddenly, he realizes that the demon is after more than just the boy, saying that he needs to check on something and ordering Thomas to stand guard outside of the door and protect the child at all costs. Gabriel goes to the garden and pulls some vines from the top of a well, revealing that the lid is marked with the seal of the Vatican, before tying a rope to the back of his scooter and pulling it off. Peering down into the darkness, he sees that the walls are lined with human skulls. He drops a flaming rag in to get a better look, but it ignites the gas, causing a huge explosion that he dodges just in time. Meanwhile, the demon begins attacking every member of the family. Julia lays alone in bed when the crucifix on her wall flips upside down, and a man's arm reaches over and grabs her. She wakes up and screams in horror, but the hand covers her mouth and pulls her down, sucking her into the bed. Amy cowers under her sheets when an unseen force flings her across her bedroom. She runs to hide in the closet, with the demon banging on the door, tearing at the walls with an invisible claw, and shattering the light bulb, plunging her into darkness. While all of this is going on, Thomas goes to check on Henry and finds him lying quietly in bed. He leans in closer, and suddenly the boy lunges at him and bites part of his ear off, growling and laughing in his face as he retreats back into the hallway. Gabriel comes running in and finds Thomas looking like he's just been in a boxing match with Mike Tyson. They hear a scream from Julia's room and run to help her, pulling her up out of the bed just in time. Next, they run to Amy's room, and Gabriel kicks the closet door down, finding her inside being manhandled by the demon. He crosses himself and starts to pray, scaring the evil spirit off for now. Thomas investigates the closet and finds a piece of the girl's fingernail in the wall, and Gabriel tells him to take the woman to the chapel. Okay, have these people never seen a horror movie before? Whether you're dealing with a demon or any other type of gabagool, everyone knows that rule number 1 is to never split up. Gabriel needs to go around and check the place out, but instead of letting Julia and Amy go to their separate rooms to try and catch some Z's, I would have made sure that they stuck close to Tomas, since he's their best protection against the forces of evil. They're lucky that Gabriel showed up in time. Otherwise, it looks like they would have all ended up as Demon Chow. It looks like the demon is starting to take on other physical forms besides just manipulating the boy. And trust me, I've been waiting to say this, but it's time to break out that shotgun. Now, we could have just taken the kid out hours ago and called it a day, but he's an innocent boy, and the whole point of this exorcism is to save him. So unfortunately, my favorite demon slaying method wouldn't have done us any
Oh
good.
my
Now
gosh.
that it's growing hairy man arms and pulling people into the bed like Freddy Krueger, we can start blasting, or chainsawing if that's more your thing. My preferred method would have been some double-barrel buckshot, but if they don't have a boomstick laying around, any old construction tools should do the trick. Whatever they have at their disposal.
Yeah, but no one's too keen on beating a kid to death with a shovel.
It's time to arm up and stick together and get ready to exercise extreme violence on any form this demon takes outside of Henry. Taking cover in the chapel is definitely their best bet for now. Although, I would have set the place up with more anti-demon defenses before I got too comfortable. I'd ask Father Gabriel for some tips on how to ward off the demon in case it comes back, and have him spread some holy water around the room and bless this place if he thought that was a good idea. I'd also ask him for a sacred necklace or something like that to wear for some added protection. The demon is clearly becoming more powerful with every second, and time is running out, but Gabriel isn't planning to go down without a fight. The women lay down to get some rest while Gabriel and Thomas regroup. Gabriel points out that the demon is causing all sort of chaos to distract them from its true plan. He shows Tomas a skull from the well and tells him to follow him out into the garden so he can show him what he found. The men go to the well and shine a flashlight to the bottom, illuminating the seal of the Spanish Inquisition in the stone below, which Gabriel points out was the darkest time in the history of the church. He says that something must be hidden beneath the abbey as they descend down into the tunnels to find out exactly
I have a bad feeling about the Spanish Inquisition thing.
what that could be. They come to the hole in the wall that Henry discovered earlier and break the stones away, revealing a stone doorway engraved with the seal of the Vatican. Gabriel tells Tomas to stand back and lays into the wall with his sledgehammer, opening up a hole that's big enough for them to fit through and pushing his way inside. Looking around, the men find themselves in an ancient
Mummies.
catacomb with a skeleton in a metal cage ominously placed in the middle.
Mummies covered in cobwebs on the wall, a skeleton in a cage. Absolutely nothing can come from this. I'm so scared.
Cave. Gabriel notices that the body is wearing the ring of the Cardinal Protector and realizes that when his exorcism failed, the man was put in the cage for his own safety in an attempt to bury the demon below the abbey forever. Tomas tries to open a gate that leads deeper into the cave, but he can't get it unlocked, and Gabriel says that the dead man must be hiding a key. He searches the body, eventually busting open the man's stomach and pulling the key out from within.
Ugh.
And head down into the tunnels below to see what they can find. Meanwhile, back at
Nasty.
the Vatican, the Pope reads over a note he found in a book about the Abbey and realizes that Gabriel is in mortal danger. He falls to the ground, clutching his chest, and the other scholars rush him to the hospital. Julia wakes up in the chapel but sees that Amy is gone.
Uh-oh.
She grabs a needle full of the sedatives that the doctors gave her and goes upstairs, finding the kids sitting on Henry's bed. They start to speak at the same time, indicating that Amy is now possessed too. Julia grabs her away, but the demon flings her across the room into a wall and starts to choke both of them. At the last second, he drops them both to the ground, and Amy grabs the syringe, plunging it into Henry's neck, and knocking him out before they tie him to the bed with the sheets. Gabriel and Tomas
just like the original Exorcist.
eventually making their way to an evil-looking ritual chamber. A corpse.
Fun fact, Iron Maidens weren't really a thing. Some guys found a sarcophagus and a bunch of iron spikes and thought, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we combined these two things like some kind of torture device? It was never really used. No one ever died in the Iron Maiden. They're fake.
A throne in the middle of the room, and Gabriel realizes that it's the body of Frere Diogia, one of the most powerful exorcists of all time, but also the madman who
Probably
convinced the queen to start the Spanish Inquisition. He finds a journal on the body and reads that the man was summoned to exorcise an extremely powerful demon many centuries ago. The friar became possessed himself, which led him to committing such horrific acts under the influence of the devil. Gabriel realizes that the church must have buried him here. Searching through the book, Gabriel finally finds
There are
the demon's
hoots
name,
outside.
the king of hell, Asmodeus. Armed with this knowledge, Gabriel says that they have what they need to defeat the demon, but he needs to make a confession one more time before the final showdown. He tells Tomas that he still feels guilty for not doing everything he could to save Rosaria, but Thomas absolves him of his sins, and with his burden released, Gabriel gets ready to fight. Okay, didn't I just tell these idiots to stick together? Not even 5 minutes has gone by since they almost got killed, and now Gabriel and Tomas have everything they need to finish the fight. But it could be helpful to know a bit more about what they're up against before heading into the final showdown. According to the Lesser Key of Solomon, Asmodeus is one of the most powerful demons
Whoa,
in
whoa,
all of
whoa,
hell. He
whoa.
commands
Hold on, let's get a better look at that.
Gabriel and Tomas have everything they need to finish the fight, but it could be helpful to know a bit more about what they're up against before heading into the final showdown. According to the Lesser Key of Solomon, Asmodeus.
Absolute Chad energy right here. This guy has not just 3 heads, but a bull and a ram's head. Not gonna lie, this guy kind of looks sick as fuck. Like, I know he's a demon, and ostensibly that's a bad thing. But that is a cool as hell design. You cannot tell me. Yes, he looks like an absolute badass. You cannot tell me there aren't some demons depicted that don't look freaking sick as hell. That's why there are so many people with tattoos of demons and such. They just look awesome.
Is one of the most powerful demons in all of hell and commands 72 legions of evil spirits. He was once defeated by the archangel Raphael, who instructed a mortal man, Tobias, to burn a fish liver on a set of coals, which repelled and weakened the demon and eventually allowed Raphael to banish him into the Egyptian desert and bind him to a rock surrounded by water. Above all things, Asmodeus is said to fear water and birds because both remind him of God. Knowing this, to prepare myself for the battle, I'd want to recite a prayer to Raphael before going in, asking for his protection and assistance. I'd also be looking to arm myself with a pendant of Raphael or some other item bearing his image. It would probably be pretty hard to get my hands on some fish liver on...
Well, on short notice, maybe, but, it might not be as hard as you think. The abbey looks like it might be near water, and they could possibly get a fish really quick.
Such short notice, but if I could, I'd throw it in an incense burner for good measure, since apparently he doesn't like the smell. Now, since Asmodeus hates water, I'd just fill up the bathtub, hit Henry with some sedatives, and throw him in there. Hopefully, the water would weaken the demon enough.
Yeah, they're literally in Spain. There should be fish markets everywhere. They're on a cliff that looks like it's near water. There are so many opportunities.
that the exorcism would be able to take effect, possibly even driving it out altogether as soon as the boy was submerged. Add some holy water to the mix for good measure, and we should have this demon on the ropes, no problem. Since Gabriel knows that the demon is actually after him, I would have also taken a page out of the dead guy in the cage's book and set up some way to restrain myself should things take a turn for the worse. If all else fails, he'll have to let the demon take him in order to set the boy and his family free. This would be the worst possible outcome, but if it came to that, and he had at least planned ahead, Gabriel could still have the hope of the church eventually figuring out a way to save him once backup arrived.
Coming soon to a theater near you, How to Beat's official Patreon. All the guts, all the blood, all the screams, plus nasty extra times Jewel behind hard on demand. Join us.
Necklace and gives it to Tomas before blessing each of them with the armor of God. He warns everyone that the demon will use their sins against them and not to believe everything that they see or hear. They go to Henry's room and find him looking.
This would be someone who has a lot of secrets' worst nightmare. I think I'm pretty lucky in that I'm not a very complicated person. Therefore, I don't have a lot to hide.
Rough. The demon starts to taunt them, and Gabriel tells the girls to pray for Henry while he and Tomas begin. Suddenly, he looks up and sees Rosaria standing on the ceiling eating a cardinal, but wards her off by remembering that it's just a trick in his mind. The demon tries the same trick on Tomas, but he beats it too, causing the spirit to roar in rage. Gabriel calls Asmodeus by his name and holds up a crucifix as the whole room starts to shake. The priest continues their prayer, and the boy finally falls down in bed, but the battle isn't over yet. Henry starts to call for his mom in his own voice, and Gabriel tells her to speak to him and help him fight. Behind them, Amy suddenly becomes possessed once again, her body contorting unnaturally across the floor and straight up the wall like a spider. Henry rises up in bed and flings Gabriel against the wall, while Amy tackles her mom through the door in the bathroom and smashes her head into the sink. Tomas runs to help, but the demon lifts him off of his feet, strangling him with his stole. Amy stands over her mother, choking her to death. Realizing that he's out of options, Gabriel tells the demon to let them go and take him instead. Black veins shoot up his arm and take over Gabriel's face. Suddenly, Amy and Henry snap out of it, and everything is quiet. Gabriel tells Tomas to take his crucifix and get the family out of here, and they run for the car, leaving him behind as the demonic possession takes over. He runs down into the cave below the church, standing before the friar's corpse and preparing to light himself on fire. Just then, a ray of sunlight shines on the pool of water in the center of the room, and the spirit that looks like the Virgin Mary rises up to the surface. Gabriel kneels before her, but the demon takes over and reveals that it's actually Rosaria back to torture him once again. Tomas comes running to help and finds Gabriel sitting on the throne with the scepter in his hand. He speaks to Tomas in a demonic voice, saying that Gabriel is gone and telling him to just get out of there. Tomas ignores him, speaking to Gabriel and instead telling him to fight back, but he slams his scepter to the ground as the carvings in the stone all around them ignite in flames.
That's bad. That's very bad.
Thomas begins to shout a prayer, causing Gabriel to fall back in his seat. He starts to break through, but the demon levitates him to the center of the room as Tomas continues to pray. Suddenly, the demon flings Tomas into an Iron Maiden, and a bloody Adela rises out and approaches him, lifting him into the air with one arm and throwing him into the water. At the last moment, he takes the metal from his neck and holds it to her head, causing the demon to explode in a giant bloody mess. With Adela down, Thomas throws the crucifix to Gabriel, and he holds it to Rosaria's head, casting her into the pool and banishing the demon back to hell as they finish their prayer. Still alive, Gabriel thanks Tomas for his help, and the two of them share a swig of whiskey.
Oh, thank God. They made it out. I'm just glad that Gabriel and Tomas ended up not dying. That's the main part I'd be worried about.
That was one hell of a final showdown.
Ha ha ha, hell.
For a minute there, things were looking pretty bad for Gabriel, but luckily, Tomas came in clutch before it was too late. Tomas managed to save his friend the old-fashioned way and get the good ending. But if things weren't working out, or he just didn't want to go down there and risk his life, there is one other method of beating this thing that comes to mind. From the beginning of the movie, we've seen that the ritual chamber is full of volatile gas. And
Yeah.
every time someone lights a fire nearby, it results in a huge explosion. That's why Gabriel pulled out the lighter at the very end. He was gonna blow himself up and take the whole place with him. Now, I'm not sure why the flames coming out of the carvings didn't also set off.
Because they're demonic flames, doy. Demonic flames are not like normal flames. They're magic. They're not like flames, they're magic.
A big boom. But we'll just have to go with the fact that it was magical hellfire and ignore that for our purposes. If I were out of options, I would have made a Molotov cocktail and thrown it down that well from the garden above, blowing the whole place sky high. Gabriel's body would have been vaporized, and even if Asmodeus wasn't outright defeated, he would have at least been buried again and suffered an enormous setback in his little plan. Then I'd head to the Vatican and report to the Pope what had happened, and let people more qualified than me figure out what to do next. It would be a shame to see Gabriel go out that way, so I'm glad that it didn't come to that. But
Yeah.
you've got to look at all your options when it comes to protecting the world from the King of Hell, and it's probably what Gabriel would have wanted if he knew that we had no other choice. With the demon officially slayed, it looks like Gabriel and Tomas just became best bros. Super exorcism bros, if you will. And now it's time to head back to report their success, and maybe even get Tomas his own scooter. Sometime later, back at the Vatican, Gabriel and Tomas go to see the Pope. He tells him that he's very proud of them, and Bishop Lumumba arrives to fill them in on what to do next. He tells them that the Vatican purchased the abbey from the family and reconsecrated the soil, while they went back to the US and Henry made a full recovery. The Friar's Journal listed a number of unholy sites around the globe, and with
Oh, I see.
the help of Friar Thomas, Gabriel agrees to seek out and destroy the evil spirits wherever they hide.
But what would you do? If you found out the demon inside the kid you're sent in to investigate knows your deep, dark secrets, would you fold like a sissy or grab that holy cross and send that demon back to hell? Let us know in the comments down below.
The best
Leave a
course of
like,
action is
subscribe,
to
and
try
check
to
out the How
find
to Beat
somebody
Playlist
in
for
the
more videos
church
just like
who
this. And
is
don't
not
forget that
only
from
good
now
at
on,
exorcisms, but has no sins that they haven't already been forgiven for. Now that would be hard, because, hate to say it, in a lot of churches there's a lot of sinning. Yeah. But I think we'll watch some more How to Beat. Next time, for real, next Saturday will be a amnesia stream. Yeah, it was the good stuff. But I am very tired and I would like to go to bed now. So, good night. It was fun hanging out with everybody. I gotta go play Possum now. Goodbye. If you're here watching after the stream, hi. Come watch me live on stream. Do it. There's a lot of times where I forget to hit record. So, if you don't want to miss any episodes at all, ever, just be present on Twitch. Stay awesome, be good people, stay awesome possums. Yeah.